For 17 years he lived in the shadows, worked tirelessly, paid his taxes, never got into trouble. To his family, he was the rock, the protector, the quiet hero. But one early morning, immigration agents showed up at the door. And that was the last time they ever saw him. What they didn't know is that he left behind a secret, a truth so powerful it would tear their world apart, but only after he was gone. Rafael Jimenez was a man of few words, but his silence wasn't empty, it was survival. When he crossed the U.S. border in 2005, fleeing violence and hunger, in rural Guatemala, he carried nothing but a small Bible, a torn photo of his mother, and a promise to himself: make it count. For 17 years, he did exactly that. He arrived in Los Angeles and took any job he could find. At first, it was day labor in the scorching sun, roofing, digging trenches, laying concrete. Later, it was janitorial work at night, cleaning buildings. Most people wouldn't notice. No contract, no insurance, just sweat, scars, and sacrifice. In 2007, he met Maria, a single mother working as a cashier at a corner store. She had no idea he was undocumented, and he never told her. Their relationship blossomed quickly, and in less than a year they married. To the outside world, Rafael was a hard-working, devoted husband, reliable, quiet, loving, and eventually, a father of two. He taught his children to ride bikes, cooked them Sunday breakfasts, and always told them stories about a village far away where the stars looked closer. He never mentioned that village was his home, or that he had left someone, behind. The years passed. Rafael paid taxes with an ITIN. He volunteered at church events. He avoided trouble at all costs. He drove carefully, obeyed every law, never even jaywalked. Still, he carried a secret terror in his chest, that one day the knock would come, and one day it did. In late 2022, while driving to pick up his daughter from a dentist appointment, Rafael was pulled over for what seemed like a routine traffic stop. A broken taillight. He was calm, respectful. But when the officer ran his ID, it flagged something unexpected: an old deportation order from 2005, issued after he missed a hearing he never knew about. Within 24 hours, Rafael was in an ICE detention center. He wasn't allowed to go home, not even to say goodbye. His wife received a call at 2 a.m. from a private number. "Maria," he whispered, "I'm so sorry. Tell the kids. I love them." And just like that, he was gone, deported. No trial, no appeal. After 17 years of building a life, it was over in less than 2 weeks. Maria was shattered. She tried calling every lawyer she could find. "He has a family here. He pays taxes. He's never even had a parking ticket." But none of it mattered. Legally, he was still just a deportable alien with a standing order against him. Case closed. The children were devastated. Anna, their oldest, refused to eat. Little Gabriel cried himself to sleep for weeks. The house felt hollow. His shoes stayed by the door, untouched. His coffee mug remained on the kitchen counter, as if he might return at any moment. But what haunted Maria most wasn't the silence, it was the feeling that something was missing. Something Rafael never told her. 2 weeks after the deportation, a small package arrived in the mail. No return address. Inside, a key, and a note in his handwriting. "If anything ever happens to me, go to the storage unit on Main Street. Unit 17, everything you need to know is there." The words chilled her. Maria had never heard of this unit. Rafael never mentioned renting a space. And what did he mean by everything you need to know? What could possibly be there that he hadn't told her during 14 years of marriage? She sat with the key in her hand for 3 days before finally driving across town to the facility. The manager looked up the unit. It had been paid in full for 5 years in advance under Rafael's name. She unlocked it with trembling hands. Inside were boxes, dozens of them, labeled in Spanish, neatly stacked. What she found would turn her world upside down. The moment Maria opened the storage unit, she felt something shift, like walking into a parallel version of her husband's life. The air inside was thick with dust, but also with the unmistakable scent of old secrets. Dozens of plastic containers and cardboard boxes were stacked in careful rows, each one meticulously labeled in his handwriting. Photos, cartas, cuentas, documentos personales. Maria stood there in silence, surrounded by memories she had never lived. At first, she thought maybe it was just Rafael's old paperwork, immigration forms, pay stubs, maybe tax records. But then she saw the box labeled, Para mi familia, si algún día no regreso. For my family, if one day I don't come back. Her hands trembled as she opened it. Inside, on top of the contents, was a sealed envelope with her name. She opened it and found a handwritten letter in Rafael's unmistakable script. Maria, if you're reading this, it means they got to me before I could fix everything. I'm sorry. I should have told you a long time ago. But I couldn't. I was scared of losing what we built, of losing you. There's something you don't know about me, and it's time you do. She kept reading. Each sentence chipped away at the man she thought she knew. Rafael revealed that before he ever crossed the border, he had been engaged to a woman in Guatemala named Isabella. They were childhood sweethearts. Just a month before he left for the U.S., she told him she was pregnant. He had promised to send for her to bring her and the baby once he was settled. But the process was harder than he imagined. Years passed, papers were denied, money was never enough. Meanwhile, Maria came into his life. He didn't plan to fall in love again, but he did. And when that happened, he made a choice. He stayed, silent. But Rafael never forgot his first daughter, Lucia. He had been sending money to Isabella for years, quietly supporting them. The storage unit contained copies of every money transfer, every birthday card he had ever sent but never mailed. Hundreds of photos, carefully organized, documenting Lucia's life from a distance. He had only visited them in person twice in 17 years, once in 2011 and again in 2018. Each time he told Maria he was on a work trip. Maria sank to the cold concrete floor. Her chest tightened. It wasn't just the betrayal. It was the image of the man she thought she knew, fractured in two. She spent hours in that unit, going through every folder. There were videos, old camcorder tapes of Lucia at her school recitals, blowing out candles, learning to ride a bike. And in one box tucked deep beneath financial papers, she found a USB drive labeled, My Truth. She brought it home, and later that night, with the children asleep, she watched it. The screen flickered, and Rafael appeared. He looked older, more tired than she remembered, and his voice cracked with emotion. Maria, if you're watching this, I'm probably not there anymore. I wanted to tell you in person, but I couldn't. I know I failed you. But please understand, I wasn't living two lives to betray you. I was trying to keep both ends of a life that got split down the middle. I love you. I love Anna and Gabriel more than my own breath. But I also love Lucia. How could I not? She's my daughter too. I know this hurts, but one day maybe you'll forgive me. Then he paused and said something that struck Maria deeper than anything else. I never meant to hurt anyone. I just didn't know how to choose between the past and the present, so I carried both until I couldn't anymore. The screen went black. Maria cried until dawn. The next day she told Anna everything. Her daughter's face turned white, then red, then blank. So, he had another family this whole time. Not another family, Maria replied. Another life. Anna didn't speak for hours. When she finally did, her voice was hollow. I thought he was our hero. And Gabriel, only 11, asked the question Maria didn't know how to answer. Does that mean he didn't love us? In the days that followed, the house became heavier. The air felt like walking through fog. Every photo on the wall now carried another shadow. The man smiling in every frame was no longer just Dad. He was someone else too. Someone with another daughter. Another story. Another truth. And yet, even in the pain, There were signs he had never stopped trying to do right. One day, while reviewing the boxes again, Anna found a set of notarized documents. In them, Raphael had made arrangements for something unexpected, a shared inheritance. He had bought a small plot of land in Guatemala in both daughters' names. One piece of soil, two bloodlines, one father. He had left instructions, in case anything happened to him, for both daughters to meet there one day and decide what to do with it together. Maybe they'll plant something, he wrote. Maybe they'll build, maybe they'll walk away, but at least they'll know the truth. And just like that, the question was no longer about betrayal. It was about healing. Time doesn't heal everything, but it gives pain space to breathe. In the days following the discovery, Maria's home felt like a silent battlefield. Not a place of peace, but one of emotional ruins. Not mourning a death, but the death of an image. The man who had once been a symbol of strength and sacrifice was now a mystery wrapped in contradiction. Every photo on the wall now whispered a question. Who was he really? Anna, just 15, was drowning in confusion. She missed her father desperately, but part of her also hated him for what he had hidden. She locked herself in her room for days. Music blasted through her headphones like a wall between her and the world. Maria could hear it through the door but chose not to knock. She knew her daughter needed time. Gabriel, only 11, floated between grief and confusion. At night he whispered to his pillow, "He's still my dad, right?" And Maria, trying to hold the family together, was falling apart inside. Rage, betrayal, guilt, and still, love. Because despite the lies, Raphael had been a kind partner, a gentle father, a constant. And how do you separate the love you lived from the truth that haunts you? But it was when Anna found the blue notebook, hidden deep in the corner of a storage box, that something inside them shifted. On its worn cover, in Spanish, were the words, "Para mis hijas, lo que nunca tuve el coraje de decir." To my daughters, what I never had the courage to say. It was Raphael's handwritten journal addressed to both daughters, Anna and Lucia. Page after page, he poured out the things he never dared say aloud. He confessed his fears, his regret, his endless struggle to live between two lives, always hoping that the silence would hurt less than the truth. "I was never trying to betray you," he wrote. "I was just trying to be a whole father in a life that was split in two." In the final entry, he wrote a line that would echo through Anna's mind for years to come. "Truth is the only soil where two different roots can grow side by side." And maybe that was what he had hoped for all along. It was that sentence that led Maria and Anna to make a decision. With the property documents in hand and the contact information Raphael had left, they booked 2 plane tickets to Guatemala. It wasn't a vacation. It was a pilgrimage, not to reconcile, but to understand. The village was small, quiet, dirt roads. Children played barefoot near wooden fences, and on the front porch of a modest home, a girl stood waiting, clutching a necklace with her name, Lucia. She was 17, wide-eyed, nervous. Next to her stood Isabella, the woman Raphael once promised to marry. She looked older than Maria imagined, tired but strong. The first moment was silence. No one knew what to say. Their eyes searched each other for answers that no words could give. But then little Gabriel stepped forward and hugged Lucia. That was the moment the wall began to break. Lucia cried. Anna, after holding back, cried too. And Maria, voice trembling, spoke the first words of a new chapter. "He loved you." "I know that. I saw it in everything he did." The days that followed were filled with emotion. They shared stories, photos, memories. They watched old camcorder tapes together. Anna and Lucia compared childhood drawings, laughed at their similar handwriting, and noticed how both of them frowned the same way when thinking hard. "You had more time with him," Lucia said. "But you had him first," Anna replied. "I guess neither of us had him completely. But maybe now we have each other." One afternoon they visited the land Raphael had bought, a small empty plot overlooking the mountains. Nothing had been built. It was just dirt and wild grass. But to them it was sacred, 2 daughters, 1 father, 1 future. They sat there for hours in silence, letting the wind carry everything he could never say. Before flying back to the U.S., Maria made a decision. Part of Raphael's savings, left behind in that storage unit, would be used to build a small house on that land. Not for them, for Lucia and her mother. Not out of guilt, not out of obligation, but as a bridge. As a gesture of peace. Back home, the process of healing began, slowly. Anna started writing letters to Lucia. Then came video calls. She kept the blue notebook on her nightstand, sometimes opening it just to read his handwriting, his voice, his regret. Maria framed a few of Raphael's letters and hung them on the wall, not as a tribute to his lies, but to the man who tried, failed, and still loved deeply. She forgave him, not all at once, and not completely, but enough to let go of the bitterness. She understood now that Raphael hadn't lived 2 lives to deceive. He had done it out of fear of choosing, fear of hurting someone, and in trying to protect everyone, he ended up hurting them all. But love, even broken love, leaves seeds. Today, when people ask Anna about her father, she smiles softly and says, "He wasn't perfect. He made big mistakes. But he also left something bigger than truth. He left a chance for us to become whole, even after he was gone." Life rarely gives us clean endings. It gives us pain wrapped in memory, truth tangled in silence, and love that sometimes comes too late to be embraced, but just in time to be understood. Rafael Jimenez was not a perfect man. He lived in fear, in conflict, in contradiction, but he also lived with love. Deep, flawed, overwhelming love. Enough love to try to be a father in 2 worlds. Enough guilt to carry it alone. In the end, his secret didn't destroy his family. It cracked them open. And from that fracture, something unexpected grew. Not a reunion, but a beginning. Anna and Lucia, 2 girls who had every reason to feel like strangers, now talk almost daily. Sometimes they argue, sometimes they cry, but they always come back, because they know that their bond isn't just shared blood. It's shared healing, shared loss, shared love. Maria still visits the storage unit once a year. She never emptied it. Instead, she turned it into a kind of memorial. A quiet place where silence speaks louder than words, where the pain doesn't vanish, but finds peace in its place. On the wall, there's a framed quote from one of Raphael's last letters. "I wasn't trying to hide the truth. I just didn't know how to live with it. I thought silence would protect you, but it only delayed your strength." And maybe that's what this story is really about. Strength. The strength to face what hurts. The strength to forgive what seems unforgivable. The strength to build something new from the pieces of something broken. To everyone watching this, you don't have to be perfect to be loved. You don't have to have all the answers to be forgiven. And sometimes, the truth, no matter how late it arrives, is the only way to begin again. So if you carry a secret, speak it. If you've been hurt, feel it. If you're broken, start where you are. Because healing doesn't need permission. It just needs honesty. This is not just Raphael's story. It's the story of every family who has lived with the weight of silence and the hope that even after goodbye, something beautiful can still grow. Fade out with soft piano music. A shot of the 2 sisters sitting on the land their father left them. The wind blowing gently through the grass. And the final words on screen. Some truths don't come in time to save us, but they come just in time to set us free.